Hello and welcome to The Backlash. I'm your host, David J. Riley. Thank you so much for joining me today. Man, have you noticed the weather? I'm kidding. We're not getting into weather talk this early into the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a big show, huge show for you today with Ben Davidson. But first, before we get into that and our very lighthearted topic about the end of the world and the imminent apocalypse of Earth, planet Earth, due to the sun exploding, I would please ask you to smash the like button, smash the follow button if you aren't already, and make sure that you are following us on all of our platforms. Of course, we are on X at Real Backlash. You can find our website, thebacklash.net, which it is so overdue. I need to upload past episodes. It's okay. Subscribestar.com/thebacklash is one way that you can support the show. You can also do it at patreon.com/thebacklash. You can also send in a super chat, preferably just here on our YouTube channel at Real Backlash, or a Rumble rant on Backlash Podcast. You can find all of our platforms at thebacklash.net/subscribe. So there's that. Man, it's gonna be a fun show today. I think you guys are gonna like it. But first, I've got to preface this not only with our sponsors, but with why we're doing it. But we do have to thank our sponsors, ODGGsupply.com, Pacific Northwest's premier military surplus dealer. Whether you're going blanky mode or bug out mode, ODGG Supply has got you covered. And if you use promo code Backlash14, you'll save 14% off your order. And at Above Time Coffee Roasters, our friends in Pennsylvania that make small batch hand-roasted premium coffee, AboveTimeCoffee.com. Use promo code Backlash10. You'll get 10% off your order. And at Antelope Hill Publishing, they're fighting to keep history alive amidst a regime of anti-white censorship. They've got a new book out, The Conquest of the State by Ramiro Ledesma Ramos, assuming that this is about the Spanish Civil War. But they've got a whole host of books about all kinds of different time periods that you are lied to about in public school. So you can get a real education at AntelopeHillPublishing.com. Of course, our friends at North Idaho Tallow Company, soap and skincare products that Won't turn you gay. They don't have endocrine disruptors. They're not made with petroleum byproduct. All natural. Beef tallow and essential oils is all that they add to their ingredients, to their products. Visit idahotallow.com. And by the way, they are running a special. And I know one of you out there, thank you very much. I heard back that one of you used the promo code. The promo code is 4 life at idahotallow.com. You will save 10%, I believe, on your order, and 20% of the proceeds of your order. Geez, what is going on with my hair today? 20% of your order will go towards fighting the abortion initiative. The liberals here in North Idaho, or just Idaho in general, are attempting to make abortion legal in the state of Idaho, something that we have fought against. It is currently illegal. So they want to murder children. We don't want that to happen. So if you go to idahotallow.com and use promo code 4life, you will not only get soap and skincare that is like the best that you can possibly get, but also you will be helping to fund the fight against abortion in Idaho. And also our friends at atlasbullion.com/backlash. Not sure which is going to go out first. The sun? Is the sun going to blow up, or is the Federal Reserve going to blow up? It's kind of a toss-up which one will happen first. But if you are concerned at all about the runaway money printing and inflation, then you've got to start stacking precious metals the easy way with our friends at atlasbullion.com/backlash. Of course, all the links are in the show notes below. And by the way, please keep Kenzie in your prayers from Atlas Bullion. I know that I think she got bit by one of those GMO ticks, and her mom has been in and out of the hospital. So please say a prayer for Kenzie and everybody over there at Atlas Bullion. And hopefully we'll be doing something with her soon. I'd love to bring her on the show and get a little bit of an update on what's going on in the gold and silver markets. Willie2X is asking, checking if Idaho Tallow has detergent for clothes. No. Nope, they don't have anything that's detergent, actually. That's the whole thing. Like when you go out and you buy, like, was it Irish Spring or Dove or whatever? Those are all detergent-based soaps, and the soap at Idaho Tallow isn't. I do know that they are getting ready to start prototyping shampoo. So for those of you that are looking for a cleaner way to shampoo your hair, they are working on that. So, but yeah, so just to preface this show, because normally we're talking about things that are within our control. We're talking about what we can do in our communities to make where we live a better place for you, your family, your neighbors, the getting involved in the Republican Party, getting involved door knocking. You know what I mean? Like this is the type of stuff that we normally talk about on the show, like concrete ways that you can make the world a better place and that we can push our ideas out there. And, over the weekend, I got a lot of feedback because I went to this modern homesteading conference, which was here in Coeur d'Alene. It was absolutely incredible, by the way. Look at this room full of white people, okay? Look, it's all white people. There aren't any black people here. I'm kidding. There was like 2. Statistically insignificant. But, white people coming together, learning how to farm, learning how to homestead. That's Joel Salatin up there on stage. I actually got a chance to talk to him, and he may be joining us here on the Backlash in the coming weeks and months. I would hope so. But I was very white-pilled this weekend. I'm like, this is so great. There's all these great companies. There's one that's actually up here in North Idaho. That's pretty cool. I'm not getting paid to shout these guys out, but they're called the Woolshire. You've got to check these guys out. They make pillows that are made out of like real wool. It's in there anyway. This is the kid. We picked up pillows for the kids and for my wife, and of course I immediately stole the pillow from my wife, and it's mine now. And we need to buy another one. But anyway, just saying, this past weekend, very white-pilled, posting online. We're going to make it. We're doing great. We're building local community and all this stuff. And then just my DMs are just flooded with like, dude, shut the fuck up. You are way too optimistic. The world is burning down. The world is ending. This is too much optimism. So we're going to black pill a little bit today. We're going to take a whole bottle full of black pills, and we are going to be talking with Ben Davidson. Of course, he runs the Space Weather News website. I think, is it that? Or we get into it in the interview. Don't worry about it. But the point is that he has uncovered this scientific phenomenon where every 6,000 years, every 12,000 years, cyclically, there is a disaster on planet Earth because of the sun. The sun emits a micronova. It blasts radiation at the Earth and basically wipes everything out, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And he put out a documentary about this. So before we get into the interview, I'm going to play the trailer for this documentary so you can get a little bit of a taste of what exactly it is that we're talking about, and then we're going to dive in with Ben. So thanks for hanging in there. Just give us a second. We'll watch this quick trailer, and then we are going to rock and roll. So here we go.
Well, an unusually strong solar storm hitting Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. this weekend. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issued a rare severe geomagnetic storm warning.
In the recent decades, the position of the magnetic poles has been moving very rapidly.
It might not be something you usually think about when we talk about severe weather, but it has the capability to disrupt our society. I'm talking about space weather.
When you look at the sun, and you look at the Earth, the magnetic field of the sun has a dramatic effect on the Earth, even though it's 93 million miles away.
We're due for a change, a swap of the magnetic polarity of the Earth. And during that process, it's been suggested that the electromagnetic field around Earth could weaken.
Who is aware that the North Pole is shifting over time?
You look at the electromagnetic field around Earth that is getting weaker and weaker. It looks like we've got 15, maybe 25 years.
Here's what we know. About every 6,000 years, there is a geomagnetic change on our planet. Every other cycle, or every 12,000 years, it's really, really bad.
The Northern Lights were a sight to see over Florida.
When you start seeing auroras down in Florida, okay, we got a problem.
Everybody who could possibly be in the know is acting like they know exactly what's coming.
What do they know that we don't know, right? I mean, they're building these underground apologetics. Is this just the natural human nature towards thinking that these are the end times?
Finally tonight, Branson versus Bezos. Who will be first to make it into space?
You do have a bunker there. Is there something you know that we don't?
No, I think that's just like a little shelter under, and it's like a
little shelter. What are you worried about?
The disaster is the complete destruction of what we call civilization. When it does go off, you're talking about 5,000 degrees Kelvin right here on the surface.
Everybody subconsciously knew something was about to happen. And I think that that's sort of where this great awakening is coming from. When this thing really gets going, it's speeding up to 100 times faster than how much it's moving now. 5% per decade, 5% per year, to 5% every couple of weeks. At that point, you only have a couple of months left.
And so, of course, the link to watch his epic documentary, The Disaster Cycle, is in the show notes down below. So, of course, you can, if you're watching the replay of this, you can pause, go watch that documentary. You'll learn a little bit, and then you'll come back, and it'll make some sense. But without any further ado, we're going to swallow a bottle of black pills with Ben Davidson. So here we go. Here's the interview. So joining me today is Ben Davidson. He is the founder of Observer Ranch in Colorado. He is also the purveyor of space weather news over on YouTube. He's been following what is called the disaster cycle, which is, he'll explain it a lot more and in much better detail than I can, I'm sure. But this is the idea that the Earth has gone through a series of disasters over its lifetime, and that we may be coming up on another one with the poles shifting, with the magnetic field around the Earth weakening. We all remember last year there was this big event where they could see the aurora borealis all the way in Florida. That's like not normal. So, Ben,
not at all.
What is going on with our sun? What is going on with the solar system? Do we actually have to be afraid? Is the end of the world actually coming?
Well, an end of the way that we live in this world is coming. An end of our society, our modern civilization is coming. It is a terrifying thing to face. Terrifying things are going to happen, but fear itself is nothing but a thief of time, energy, and focus. There are two parts to this. There is the mainstream science supported aspect of it, and then there is what they have been moving towards, but not quite yet reached, but for which the evidence has been presented that this is a pretty good hypothesis for how to explain what is happening. And while I think it's important that that entire story is told, for many purposes, and many listeners / viewers / readers, what is just able to be confirmed is what is most important to them. And so that's probably the best place to start with this.
All right.
Here is what the peer-reviewed science journals can tell us. There is a full chron magnetic reversal on this planet every few 100,000 years. This is what shows up in the mid-Atlantic ridge as those lines where the rock, the magnetite points the other direction. The event I'm talking about is not that. There are shorter, much more rapid, and much more frequent events called geomagnetic excursions, rapid magnetic pole flips. These happen much more often, and even though it is not quite to the extreme of one of those bigger full chron magnetic reversals that happen every few 100,000 years, it compresses maybe 80 to 90% of that severity in only a tenth of the time. And so instead of the whole 100% of this disaster being spread over maybe 1,000 years, it's now spread over 100 years, which is much more challenging for the life on the planet to deal with. And so what this event actually is there's a rapid shift of the magnetic poles on the planet and a weakening of the magnetic shield that protects our planet, known as the magnetosphere. You may have heard of this. This is what protects Earth from all the scary stuff like solar wind, solar flares, cosmic rays, gamma rays, charged particles from supernova, and high energy light from any number of things that happen in space. The reason why Earth is Earth and not Mars is because Mars lost its magnetic field. If you were to take away Earth's magnetic field entirely and never bring it back, after so many thousands and thousands of years, we would look like Mars. Now, luckily, Earth's magnetic field does not stay in that depressed state for very long. And it is not complete, it is not total. We spend far more time with a nice, strong defense of this planet. It is just that every few thousand years, the slow crawl of wind and water and geology is overtaken by a rapid punctuation, a tremendous amount of change, geologically, climatologically, and in the biosphere, which is the way we refer to the life on this planet, on land, in the oceans, etc. The biosphere, the biology. During this event, when we lose Earth's magnetic field, the primary thing that happens is we get more charged particles, protons, electrons, positively charged hydrogen, cosmic rays coming into the atmosphere because we are losing that magnetic protection. It's a magnetic shield, so it's going to repel these electrically charged particles. As more of these particles come in, it really tips the scale in terms of the ozone. One of the things they can determine is that the ultraviolet bombardment of the surface spikes at the exact same time as they notice the magnetite in the rock points the other way. Now, it just so happens in these layers where The magnetite is pointing the other way, indicating that Earth's magnetic field did one of these. There's a lot more volcanic ash. There's a lot more volcanic glass. There's a lot more evidence of the high ultraviolet rays bombarding the surface level. This is where you see evidence of about 5, 10, 20 times the fossils as you see in the inches or feet above or below that layer. There's a whole heck of a lot of dying that goes on right there as well. This is where you also see several other pieces of evidence. But one of the reasons this happens is because these charged particles come in, and the first thing they do is they start taking out the ozone, and that allows more ultraviolet light to come in. Now, this is a twofer, for example. So the loss of Earth's magnetic field does not let in that much more light in general, but the loss of the ozone due to the particles that are let in ends up letting in more of the light. So we have both light and particle ionizing radiation increasing down to the lower atmosphere. This does two things. Each one of those impacts the climate, whether that's direct Joule heating in terms of temperature, thermal, deposition, whether that's through the global electric circuit and its impact on water vapor or clouds or precipitation or lightning, or pressure cells that spin in the same kind of helical ways that electromagnetic vortices move. They also impact humans. And it's one thing to say, oh yeah, radiation, obviously, but this is bad for our DNA. This is bad for our skin cells. This is bad for our brains. This is also bad for fur. This is bad for other creatures' skin. This is bad for wings, both feathered and insect. This is bad for phytoplankton. This is bad for chlorophyll. This is bad for leaves. This is bad for seeds. This is bad for flowers. This is bad for everything. You ramp up the amount of electromagnetic ionizing radiation that is bombarding, both in terms of light and in particles. And at the same time as you're bombarding all the biology and their DNA and every cell that they have with that increasing level of radiation, it's also working the climate as well. As humans, we often forget, because of how smart we are and what we have done to this planet, this is not an easy planet to live on. If you're not a human, if you're just some other creature out there somewhere, death could be like moments away at any time, right? And it's pretty well understood that slight shifts in climate or any number of things, the amount of food, this or that, can really impact the survival of a considerable portion of the food chain across the animal kingdom. Now, we're going to crank the dial on the climate. We're going to crank the dial on the electromagnetic ionizing radiation bombarding those creatures trying to deal with the climate. And get this, at the exact same time, we are going to screw up their internal compass, because it's not just birds that use Earth's magnetic field for migratory navigation. It's also turtles and whales and sharks and several different species of fish, and not just for migratory navigation, but navigation to foraging zones. In the case of fish and lots of birds, it's specific targeting of their reproductive sites. It has been shown that for foraging, sleeping, and fleeing predators, mammals use Earth's magnetic field. You want to go down a rabbit hole? Look into the electromagnetic interaction of bees and flowers, or any number of insects, or the importance of magnetic fields on seed growth or flowering, germination, any number of things. And you realize all of these are hitting a sensitive climate of the biosphere at the exact same time. And all of a sudden, we don't have to ask, hey, in these disaster layers where we see all this other stuff, now we don't have to ask why there's 5, 10, 500 times the amount of fossils as there are in the feet above and below it. It's obvious why. Now, this is happening again right now, and it is accelerating at a now shocking pace.
Yeah,
to the point where if you... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you released a video, or you do a video every day, actually, kind of going over the sun, whether there's sunspots, if there's any solar flares coming. It's a good update. But at the end of the video today, you were showing this graph of the speed of the North magnetic pole drift over time. The chart starts at 1850 and goes to the present day. And so is this what you're talking about? This kind of acceleration where we see the change in magnetic shift, it goes down a little bit and then it ramps
Correct.
up again and up again. If you could explain this.
So that's exactly what it is. And the way that this is trending is, at first, Earth's magnetic field for last couple thousand years was pretty stable. All right. And then in about the 1850s, it looks like it's about 1859. It started to accelerate quite a bit. This acceleration then trailed off. It was like 2 steps forward in terms of 2 steps faster and then 1 step back. And it kind of hovered there for a while. Then, in a much sharper curve, it went higher, kind of in a jagged fashion. This would be the second one. So if you actually look to the far left there, even before that right there. So the first one, before 1850, just picture it a flat line right there, all right? Then we had the first little hump, and then it came back down around 1900. Then we had a sharper one, kind of jagged up at the top, and then it came down for a shorter duration. Now we have a huge spike up. This next one technically should be a shorter duration. I've made the purple trough the exact same as the last one, just because it was too terrifying when I did it the other way. Yeah, this is sort of Happy Ben's version of the curve, and it probably won't look that nice. But this is what we're dealing with, and this is sort of the opposite of what we have been tracking up to now. I never thought of me to chart how this getting worse a little, and then getting worse, and then getting worse was going in terms of the magnetic pole motion. What I've been tracking is the thing that lets in the particles, the weakening of Earth's magnetic field. And so we know that it was at approximately 100% strength up until that same time, the 1850s. In the year 2000, the data showed that we had lost about 9 or 10% of Earth's magnetic field. So that's in about 150 years, we lost about 10%. Let's use those numbers just to make it easy, right? 10% lost, 150 years. In 2010, only 10 years later, they updated that number to 15%. Now that means to get another 10% would only take you 20 years total, when it took 150 years before. And you can plot this on a curve, and you can pretty well see that you can't pick a date on the calendar, but I can tell you that this curve, even though it's a little rocky in terms of Earth's magnetic field strength, it's, let me move this way so you can actually see this a little better. It's sort of coming like this, and it's getting ready to trail off like that towards the actual spike down and the actual bad event. And that should be in about 20 years, sometime between 2042 and 2049. That's the best I can do. And it just so happens that if you apply a similar type curve to the magnetic pole speed, and you have to do a bit of guessing with the pattern, but if the pattern that we've seen since the magnetic field started weakening holds up in terms of the pole motion as well, we can say that that purple line is very close to what we've got coming here. And so we're looking at the 2040s. Now, of course, as I tell people all the time, you shouldn't sit here and be like, okay, I have 20 years. Because as you correctly identified, the aurora we're seeing in Florida, and my follow-up to that is, I wonder which time you're talking about. Now, aurora should be seen in Florida maybe once every 100 to 200 years. It's happened 4 times in 2 years.
Wow.
4 times in 2 years. And the reason is because Earth's magnetic field is not shielding the planet from the solar wind well enough anymore. It has now started to weaken more and more and more, and more of that solar wind is pouring in the protons, the electrons, the charged hydrogen. And what the aurora, the northern lights are, it is those particles striking the air at the top of the sky and actually making them glow a little bit, kind of like in the, what do you call those light bulbs where it's not necessarily the filament, but they're filled with gas, and when you put the charge into them, they that's when they illuminate. It's the same kind of thing. It's electromagnetic energy being dumped into the top of the sky, creating a similar type of glow in one of those light bulbs. And how much of that gets in determines the strength and the breadth, how big and how far towards the equator that the auroras are seen. These particles like to come in at the poles.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see it in Florida, this means, wow, we got a lot of energy being dumped in. But we don't. That's the problem. It's the fact that we are so weak. When these events happened before, we're talking about solar flares that were 10, 20 times bigger than what we got over the last 2 years. And that's the biggest one over the last 2 years. The other 3 times, we're talking half that or lower. Basically, this would be like, what's a good way to put this? Like imagine a toddler knocks out Mike Tyson. You know? It would be one thing to just say, hey, look, 4 aurora in 2 years is crazy. And now that's no matter what the sun is doing. 4 Floridian aurora in 2 years is crazy, no matter what the sun is doing. But if the sun's not putting out super flares, the only answer is that this planet is on its last legs magnetically. We're about to have the magnetic pole shift. And what that means, this enormous circle that I've just made, I'm back to where we left off before. Do not think you have 20 years. If we are already seeing this level of geophysical vulnerability to the solar wind, what that means is Earth's power grids are not going to make it all the way to the pole shift. Okay? And a good way to put this is, let's say you know there's a hurricane coming, and at the very innermost wall, there's 300-mile-an-hour winds. Do you think you could stand there, even if you had something to hold on to, and hold on all the way till that 300-mile-an-hour wind, or at some point between about 50 and 200 miles an hour, are you gone, or is something going to come smack you and you're gone? You know, if you can understand the concept of you couldn't actually hold on to get all the way in to feel what 300 miles an hour wind felt like. If you can understand that concept, there is no way we are getting this world all the way until the drop and the final moments of Earth's magnetic pole shift. The only reason we are able to have a power grid is because we do not have the massive fluctuations of electric currents induced by this solar activity on the planet. This would be solar flares. This would be the big blast that hit our planet that caused the aurora. While they're causing the aurora, they're also making it much harder for satellites to maintain their operation. And at the same time, they're puffing up the top of the sky. You just dumped a bunch of heat into it. It's going to puff up a little bit, causing extra satellite drag. That's if they even survive the electromagnetic bombardment of everything. But while this is going on, what the auroras are doing is they are working electromagnetically through induction, the currents at ground level. Every time there is a major magnetic storm, we see an uptick in electrical fires. We see an uptick in electrical glitches and even electrical explosions. And we see an uptick in the amount of pipeline corrosive events, and most importantly, power grid failures.
Now,
outside of things like brownouts in California due to overusage and summer thunderstorms, there is nothing that takes out power like geomagnetic storms triggered by the sun. Now, this is getting worse and worse and worse as well. We're seeing not necessarily worse disruptions to the power grid, but we're seeing them with only a third of the solar storm, a fifth of the solar storm that did it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Why are these little things doing this now? Boy, it's a good thing the sun's not super flaring, because if the sun's little jabs and slaps are doing this to us, I really don't want a strong punch. Because our grids are going to get cooked. And here's the thing. Let's say an enormous sunspot comes around next week and fires that event at Earth. We've got a day or two. And then there's no water purification. There's no water coming to the tap. There's no food at the store. There's no vehicles. There's no gas. There's no banking system. There's no transactions. All of the agricultural machines that actually feed large amounts of the world, they run on GPS with satellites, not to mention they're electric as well. They're going to be disabled during the blast. All of the heating, all of the refrigeration, everything that keeps us together as a society, all of the internet, telecommunications, everything just stops instantaneously. There's no clean water. All the food is gone in 24 hours. All the pharmacies are raided in 24 hours. The hospitals are completely non-functioning. There is no 911. There is nobody coming to help. It is just you and everybody all around you, hungry, thirsty, and getting more and more desperate by the day. And that could happen next week. And then we've got 20 years until the magnetic field spikes downward and the rest of the biosphere goes crazy. The sun could cook our power grids tomorrow. Most of the planet wouldn't know. It would just be us humans. And then if the other species realized anything at all, it would be like, what in the world is going on to the demigods walking around on this planet that have ruled my entire life? What is this disarray? That's the only thing they would notice.
Right.
Because they're not in an electro-dependent civilization like we are. So this is what we are facing right now. And nothing I have said up to this point is beyond mainstream allowed science. That's where we are. That's where we're headed right now.
I was going to say, like, a lot of times on this channel, you know, we delve and dabble in doomerism about politics, right? Like the idea that, oh, the banking system will touch off, and the next thing you know, there'll be riots all over the country. This is like coming totally out of left field, I think, for maybe a lot of the listeners, if they don't already watch your channel. And
maybe, but you know what? Since you mentioned that, maybe the best place to go next, because it's not like I don't know who you are. I've watched your show and I have a pretty good idea of who your viewers are.
Oh, thank you. That's crazy. Awesome.
Yeah. Here's what I think. Yes, there is an aspect to this where there is a great solar flash, a great solar blast. I think the most scientific way to put it is the solar micronova. There is a turning of the planet. There is a whole bunch of crazy coincidences to it, to the point where one has to look at science and then several different religious texts and say, wait a minute, are they actually just telling the same story? Are you telling me this is where the choice between science and religion ends and they realize, sorry, we've actually been the same thing the entire time? I think the better way to go with this is the fact that this is going to be coming out of left field for a lot of people. And maybe it will help if I answer a completely different question.
Go for it.
So if you weren't watching Alex Jones or listening to Art Bell 30 years ago, you didn't know what was going on. In all likelihood, you had no idea about New World Order, elites, Illuminati, like secret plans, the chemicals, the pharma, conspiracy. You had no idea about any of it. Especially not like a lot of the UFO stuff. But why? Why was that the case? It's not like the evidence wasn't everywhere and like 1,000 different vectors of our everyday lives easily pointed out by these individuals and other key researchers, highlighted by them on their shows, etc., interviewed by them. But the reason why you didn't know, unless you were really paying close attention, is because they were cautious and they were slow, careful, secretive, subversive. They didn't care if they were going at such a snail's pace that the fruits of their endeavors weren't going to be enjoyed until their great-grandchildren. As long as they were moving in that direction and we didn't know what was going on. Fast forward to now. Clown World has been the #1 meme on this planet for 6 years, and they don't give a damn. They don't care how much we know. They don't care how much we see. They don't care how much we talk about it on the internet. It's almost like they have abandoned caution and secrecy for just, okay, hit the accelerator, turn on the headlights, and blast the music as loud as you can. Honk, too, as you're driving down the street. What? Why? Why are they acting so recklessly? Maybe they know there's no time for a reckoning. People aren't going to put the entire story together and bring them up before the International Criminal Court. They are not quite ready. They're not quite ready. They got the crap scared out of them by the event that caused the 2010 update to Earth's magnetic field. You see, the event that moved us from losing about 5% of Earth's magnetic field per decade, per century, to losing 5% every decade, was at the same time on that chart that you showed, the big spike up, that red one. At that, when it hit that, and we were basically racing speed up there, that's the exact time that Clown World really kicked into high gear. Most of us didn't notice as much until 2016, 2017, when the super attack on conservative white Christian straight men began. And then we're like, wait a minute. This is nonsense. And it's basically government sanctioned. It's corporate sanctioned. It's all over the media, along with 1,000 other aspects of Clown World, whether that's gender stuff, the hedonism and degeneracy aspect of the religious battle. They openly have satanic symbols and pedophilic symbols on the news and the halftime show and the Oscars. The truth about what's actually happening behind our backs gets thrown up in front of our faces, almost gaslighting us, and then nothing is done about it. Why all of this now? Because they need to keep us distracted and divided. But they're also, with their policies, making land grabs and power grabs and money grabs everywhere they can, because they still want to be at the top of the pyramid when this is all said and done. Their idea of perfect disaster cycle event is they somehow survive and ride this out with enough resources and technology that the people that are left are just their opening slave class. That would be their plan.
Fascinating. Now, I was going to say this also kind of coincides with the climate doomerism that we've been seeing from the media, where they talk about climate change
at us at once.
Right.
All of that is thrown at us at once. So was COVID and the vaccine. This is the point of the whole, okay, now do the aliens thing. All of this it's connected. It's all connected. We are not living through a million different aspects of Clown World that all started at about the same time, and nobody asks. Here's the thing. Everybody sees Clown World and everybody likes pointing it out. We make fun of it. Some of us are in various stages of anger and disbelief or comedy about it, but nobody's asking why. Why now? Why not 25 years ago? Why not 25 years from now? What just happened? I'll tell you what just happened. They got the shit scared out of them. And so they're like, you know what? We thought this was like a century away. It's about 25, 30 years away. And so they started throwing everything, every one of their power grabs, every one of the attacks on the people they see as threats, as strength going into this for the population.
Yeah. And I was going to say, there's also things like this popping up all over the place. Tech billionaires seem to be doom prepping. Should we all be worried? This is from BBC.
You want to hear something interesting? So, Elon Musk, obviously, that man could go up anytime he wants, all the way up. But he also owns the boring company. And I don't think anybody has any idea exactly how much drilling they're doing. Okay. Jeff Bezos. A lot of people have heard that he's hollowing out that mountain in the Sierra Diablos. But what people don't know is right across the street is one of his Blue Origin test launch facilities. He can go up right across the street from where he goes down. And get this, if you were to hypothetically drop a lake of water directly on that mountain that he's hollowing out and watched where that water snaked its way to the Gulf of America, at that exact point where it would hit, that's where he has moored his $300 million modern version of the Black Pearl that cannot be EMP'd. Are you kidding me? Did you know that where Virgin Galactic's last remaining near space-worthy craft are, underneath there is where Richard Branson's bunker is? Now, granted, not every elite is getting the same information. And I want to just sort of put you into the why for a second. Picture F. Scott Fitzgerald. Okay. Great Gatsby, old money, new money. You think old money wants Mark Zuckerberg around?
No.
That's why they sent his ass to Hawaii. That's why they sent the people to New Zealand who they're like, yeah, you go build in New Zealand. Yeah, go ahead. Kim Kardashian, go ahead and build that bunker right in Los Angeles. That's fine. That's just fine. Obviously, no, not fine at all. But the people who know, they are on an area where I call the New Valley of the Sun. It is the eastern range of the Rockies. It goes down into Mexico and it goes up into Canada. You would want to avoid some of the populated areas like Denver, especially when the power goes out and there's no food, no water, and everybody's got guns. Not to mention blue and pink hair in Denver specifically. But this is where the north-south secret tunnel system is. This is where Cheyenne Mountain is. This is where the Los Alamos National Lab is. This is where Sandia National Lab is. This is where the secret COG, continuity of government facility, is on the western side of the United States. It's on that same line. And this is what all of the geology and all of the math and science about what's going to happen to this planet says will be the best place to survive on this half of the world, right here on the eastern range of the Rockies.
Right over here. So how screwed are we up here? Up here in North Idaho? Is this a decent spot to be,
I usually try to be pretty optimistic about that area.
Good. Because we have a place called Sun Valley in Idaho, by the way. Of course, it's where all the tech billionaires live.
Some of the more complex models that people are putting out, including the one I just looked at in a meeting about an hour before you and I hopped on here, and which will be available to the public in approximately 1 month. It is the most complex. It is the most scientific tsunami model. Idaho is completely fucking obliterated.
Nice.
The safe zones of the planet are about half of what I thought they were. There's not a whole lot of areas that are safe that I was like, you're screwed. But there's a whole bunch of areas where I was like, hey, I'm optimistic about this. And in this new model, I'm like, oh, God. No, that's bad. Well, that's bad.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, too, because so there's this idea of, a solar flare, it could hit the Earth. It would destroy the electrical grid and all this kind of stuff. But this is not actually so far-fetched, is it? Because there was an event, I think, in the 1800s called the Carrington event. If you could kind of talk about that a little bit and what happened then.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was when they discovered what solar storms are. So back then, this was the first time there was any widespread electrical usage by humans. This happens at a super flare level, like 1859, about every 150 to 200 years. And yes, if you do the math, you realize we're getting really darn close to the next one. Even if I've just explained why we wouldn't even need one that big, we're due for one that big. What happened is we got one of those. And whereas in the past, it just made extra beautiful auroras, probably visible down to the equator, now we're using electricity on the planet. And there were only two things really that we had at that time. There weren't power lines, but there were telegraph lines and there were the railroads. The rails got completely disabled for about a week, and the telegraph lines caught fire. When the machines started catching fire and sparking, they unplugged them from the walls. The telegraph messages kept coming in.
Oh, wow.
That's how much electric current is surging through, and that's why our delicate systems are not going to be able to handle it. Now, this has happened several other times, not to the same level as 1859, but smaller solar storms took out the Quebec power grid to the entire province in 1989.
Yes.
In 2003, Sweden and Norway separately had power grids go down. And I think several in Finland were impacted as well. There was a similar event where the entire New York Railroad had to shut down in 1921. And there have been several episodes recently where satellites were lost or other things like that during significant solar storms. Now, to reiterate, this is actually more mainstream science than the idea that everybody needs to be worried about this right now. Essentially, the fact that the sun could throw us back to the Stone Age, perfect mainstream science. The idea that magnetic pole shifts, these rapid ones that I'm talking about, represent the spikes in extinction on the millennial timescale. And it's easy to see why. What the idea of, hey, we have to be worried about one of those right now. That has not been stated yet in the journals. However, what has been stated in the journals is A is we're 100% sure it equals B. We are also 100% sure that B equals C. I am just saying if those things are the case, then A and C equal each other too.
Yeah.
Simple transitive properties from what, second or third grade?
Yeah, it's logic.
That's all I'm saying. And that's all I need to say we need to be worried about this right now.
Yeah.
The part I'm missing is no scientist has received a grant money from the CIA, National Science Foundation, to write a paper that says we're that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But the whole solar storm throwing us to the Stone Age. And by the way, when the US government did a study on this, they said, all right, well, what happens if the sun does cook the world's power grids? 90% of humans are dead in 6 months. That's not the pole shift. That's just the big solar storm.
Right.
That's mainstream. The idea that these excursions really spike the climate and the radiation and they really kill a lot of stuff. This is a terrible time to be on the planet. That's perfectly mainstream science now. It's just that the paper hasn't come out that is pointed at this data. And all that data that I charted there, that's their data. I'm not out here collecting data. I don't have a satellite up there. I'm using their own data to show you, guys, the magnetic field strength, it's going down. And the magnetic pole shift speed, it's speeding up. Why is it on me to do this? And of course, the answer is that the closest thing to a villain in the movie 2012, other than the disaster itself, was the fat American government guy who wouldn't let them do anything and seemed heartless. But he had the most intelligent line in that whole movie. And it was, what, do you just want to tell everyone they're doomed? There'll be anarchy. It'll ruin any plans we have to save anybody. And I got to admit, it pisses me off to hear that, but I can't really argue against it. I don't know what the argument other than it just makes me feel bad is. Other than being a liberal snowflake, what's the argument against? No, if there is a large scale plan and there is tons of evidence that they have known this is going to happen since at least the late 40s. You want to get into secret societies and ancient knowledge and ancient texts. I don't know anything about that. I'm not denying it at all. I'm just saying I have clear evidence that the United States government and at least the British Antarctic Survey and therefore the British Navy knew about exactly this thing I'm talking about since the late 1940s. They had the data. Maybe they didn't put it together until the 1950s, but that gives them 70, 80 years. And if there are large-scale plans, if they are digging bases and bunkers underground, and if they are doing any number of other things, they really couldn't tell us, because nobody's going to work the next day.
Right.
Nobody's getting in a semi and driving across the country thinking about the end of the world. What police officer is going to leave his beautiful baby girl to, go potentially get shot by some loser out in the street?
Right.
No, it's not going to happen. The world shuts down the next day if they actually tell us what happened and what's going to happen. And so that presents a problem, but it's also a solution to how do we actually get all this done. You use this smoke screen to keep the engine of the world economy going so that we can actually facilitate all of this. And I can tell you that as much as people like us probably want to look at anybody in power, anybody with the title, anybody with at least 8 zeros behind their bank account as they're one of them, they're evil, the elite, them, whatever. But I can tell you that there is balance to all things and at all levels and all fractal scales, which means that just as you can find a ton of wonderful, good human beings in the ghetto, you can find a ton of degenerate ones as well. Same thing in a trailer park. I bet you could find some honest people, and you could find some trailer trash that would make Eminem blush. So this is true all the way up the scale to kings, presidents, etc., and billionaires. Now, granted, some of the billionaires do hate us. Some of the elites do really almost seem like they want us all dead. There's another side to that. It's very clear. Now, half of them genuinely do it out of their hearts. The other half do it because they believe in an ancient religion we're not going to get into right now, but karma is a real thing. And so they actually believe if they genuinely help the population, that goodwill and benefit and good luck will be bestowed upon them and their bloodline and their children and their children's children, etc. And to be honest, if that's what they actually believe, if we functionally benefit, if they believe, hey, we have to do good to do this, in which case it's quasi-selfish, I don't care. But that exists everywhere. They are building. They are preparing. They are going to try to save as many people as possible. I think that you have just as good a chance maybe making a plan of your own, but it doesn't mean that those things aren't in the works and that the cover-up of this doesn't make sense or that the evidence for it doesn't fall completely in line. And it doesn't mean that if I was put in the position of having to make the call, tell everybody and risk it, or no, let's go with this carefully made plan that we've been executing for the last 50 years and try to save people. I might just shut the hell up and not say a word. Yeah. I would hate to be put in that position.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, though. The last event was approximately 6,000 years ago. They are toying with different names for it. I think they're leaning towards the Tianqi, but I've been playfully calling it the Noah event. The one before that, Gothenburg, 12,000 years ago. Helena Pali, 18,000 years ago. Lake Mungo, 24,000 years ago. Michoacan, 30,000 years ago. Mono Lake, 36,000 years ago. Le Champ number 2 at 42,000 years ago. Le Champ number 1 at 48,000 years ago. These are happening approximately every 6,000 years. We are 6,000 years from the last one. And we are seeing everything in Earth's magnetic field and the expected impacts to the atmosphere that you would expect to see. And all of it is accelerating, as we have evidence for in the past cycles as well. My argument is that if, in terms of the magnetic field, we are about here, and if in terms of the magnetic pole shift, we are about here, and we are the perfect geologic time distance from the last one, and every last one that we see in the sediment shows that same, things are getting worse. The field tanks quickly. I'm saying, hey, let's put all that together, and we should be concerned and preparing for it right now. And the response to that I have gotten has been, source?
What's the source? It came to me in a dream.
and here's the thing. I am not a professor. I do not work for NASA. My peer-reviewed literature that made it into science journals My co-authors were from NASA and the head of a statistics department. I have a physics textbook that has been in over 100 university bookstores. My follow-up textbook to that one, just released last year, is already in 30. If I don't count as somebody who's capable of peer reviewing, of making my own scientific analysis on these things, I don't know what we're talking about, especially because I dedicate my life to this. I don't have to read papers. I don't have to grade tests. I don't have to hold office hours. I don't have department politics. I never have to wear a muzzle. I never have to read a script. I don't have to deal with the crap that all of these people have to deal with. On top of that, I'm a speed reader with mild hyperthymesia, which means basically a super recall memory. As Dr. Smith at Cornell once told me, Ben, you're basically cheating at this. That's what he told me. You're basically cheating. And I was like, oh. And he's like, do not feel bad. It's just you have a cheat code that you are allowed to use here. And so I haven't wanted to spend time seeking out multiple publications and, trying to do the mainstream science thing. To me, given what my expertise is, the most beneficial thing I can do is I do work with at this point, I don't know how many professors and NASA scientists and other folks like that I work with, but they're good. All right. They get integrated into the group, and I'm like, yo, you talk to this person, and this person. All right, go. Come back to me in 6 months. Mm-hmm. And what I need to spend my time doing is making this understandable for everybody, in hopes that there is some kind of inspiration to, while we are raising our children and while we are going to work and while we are keeping up with our lives, we maybe try to dedicate a little bit more time to being better and being a little bit more prepared for the unknown. If the last 6 or 7 years hasn't taught you, holy crap, you do not know what is just around the corner on this planet and in our civilization and in our society, I don't know what it would take to convince you of that. And given the fact that it might not even be the sun cooking the power grids, for all we know, there will be a global economic collapse, or for all we know, Campi Flegrei in Italy is going to blow, and there's going to be a massive tsunami from an earthquake in the Pacific, and a ton of other things are going to happen. Or maybe somebody's going to start dropping nukes on the planet. There are several reasons why our civilization is about to destabilize. There is no getting through this magnetic pole shift, and it might not take the sun to do it first. Something might happen before that. But this is coming no matter what. And so, don't FO to the hills. Don't quit your job and yank your kids out of school. But ask yourself, how much time do you spend on this every day? How much time do you spend drinking beer and watching sports ball? How much time do you spend playing video games? How much time do you spend chit-chatting with your sister and your auntie and your other sister and your best friend? And how much time are you scrolling? How about carve out an hour or two a week to getting yourself healthier and starting to stock up on supplies? Yeah. Maybe look into questions like, hey, if there was a massive tsunami, like bigger than anything in modern times, coming from the nearest ocean, would it hit me? Maybe it's time to start thinking about whether or not that dormant but not extinct volcano just behind your house is something to worry about. Maybe it's time to start saying, hey, you know what? The New Madrid fault line has been fantastic, but we all know it's going to go eventually, and it's been a very long time since the last one. Maybe it's time to start asking some of these questions, saying, hey, okay, do I want to get MREs, or would I prefer stocking up on canned food? Do I want to try to store extra water, or should I get water filters that I can just take with me and wherever I find water? There's 1,000 questions people should be asking themselves, and 1,000 ways to spend our time better than most of us spend it now. And since this is coming, this is the reason why Clown World is happening now and not 30 years ago and not 30 years in the future. And to the extent it's happening right now. Trust me, if they could do all of this without us having a clue, they'd do it. But they realized, oh, crap, the finish line is right there. Go, go, go. Hey, they're going to see us. They're going to see us. They're going to hear us. They're going to figure it out. Just keep them distracted, keep them divided, fighting each other, looking at anything except the sun and Earth's magnetic field. What about the ones who can tell there's something wrong? Throw climate change at them. What about the ones who know it's not climate change? Lie about weather modification and geoengineering. They're very real things, but most of what you see on the internet is actually the CIA psyop. It's a limited hangout. Most of what they talk, trust me, evil people are trying to mess with the weather, but if you're looking for white lines lasting in the sky, you have been conned. That's another story for another day. Just know I'm against it. They should not be playing God in the sky. They are doing it. It's just that they attacked us in this age of it. They info warred us on this one.
Oh yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is everybody needs to be understanding why the world is the way that it is. And it is not enough just to recognize that, hey, things are a little weird here in clown world. Nothing makes sense. It's like idiocracy. That's not good enough. You have to ask, there is only one good reason, especially when, unlike the whole gender identity, spirituality, should we allow Satan clubs in high school? The one that is least open to discussion, that is least open for question, is what the planet and the sun are doing.
Right.
What the rock is telling us beneath our feet, the story written in the fossils. That's what is not up for discussion at all.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's what we need to be remembering. And again, this is not something that should overtake your life. For now, it's probably good enough to watch my daily 2 to 3 minute video. That's why I make it so short. You can watch it while you're making coffee or drinking coffee or pooping or sitting at, the various red lights you have to sit at as you're on your way to work. It's 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. And it's informative. I give you every last thing you need to know about the Earth and the sun and science and where we are in this entire process. I do it every day.
And by the way, that is at Space Weather News, SOS, is the over on YouTube. Of course, I'm going to plug your, I've got one more question before we go, but then your website, spaceweathernews.com, where you post the daily update and some charts and stuff about the sun, so you can see like if there's a solar flare coming at us or not.
Exactly.
And then,
you can watch the last 24 hours of the sun anytime there.
Yeah, and then of course, observerranch.com, which you run out there in Colorado. Now, the one thing that I did kind of want to also get into with this, and I can't remember if it was on your channel or some other channel where I'd initially seen this idea, but I remember, I'll get to it in like a roundabout way, I guess, which is that when I first moved to Idaho, we had this incredible event. It was called a heat dome that happened up here. It was like 2020 or 2021. It was like 116 degrees outside, no relief for like a week and a half. Everybody just like left their work and we just went to the creek in like a glacial creek to cool off. But I started to notice, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I don't remember the sun being white. I don't remember going outside and feeling like my skin was frying after 5 minutes of being in the sun. And that's what kind of like led me to start asking these questions, which led me to your channel. A friend of mine had recommended it to me. But I think that there's a real lack of understanding among most people in just how intimately the sun affects our lives, and not even on just like, hey, the sun came up and the food's growing, but psychologically, when the solar cycles are at their peak. There was a chart that I saw. I can't pull it up right now, but I remember seeing a chart that kind of lined up things like the French Revolution, the revolutions of 1848, the Bolshevik Revolution, all happening at these kind of solar maximums that are happening. So if you could talk a little bit about how the solar cycle affects human psychology, I think that would be really interesting.
Well, absolutely. And there's a lot of evidence that some of the large scale revolutions, major wars, things like that, are tied to these cycles. They actually have taken this all the way back to the fall of Chinese dynasties, etc. The different kingdoms of Egypt. What's more interesting is now science has told us the exact way in which this magnetic pole shift should be affecting us. Because in addition to all of the ways that we know electromagnetic radiation impacts cells, mitochondria, our DNA, we also now know the two strongest ways it impacts the brain. First, it decreases the mitochondrial activity in your hippocampus, which means your hippocampus isn't able to perform as well. What does it do? Cognition, which means you get a little dumber. Second, at the somewhere way deep in the middle of your brain is the locus coeruleus. It happens to be the induction point, the core, where most of the extra excitement occurs. The problem is, this is what makes you emotionally reactive, unstable, especially to anxiety, terror, panic, fear. And so if it seems like the world is getting a little bit dumber, and if it seems like everybody's a little more emotionally unstable, and if it seems like everybody is acting out of fear and panic, sometimes outright terror and anxious stress, yes, they are. And yes, the news is making it worse. Yes, the economy is making it worse. Yes, schools are making it worse, and everything is making it worse. It's just that this is what would be happening anyway. And it just so happens the behavior resultant therefrom, which we are seeing take over all of the best places in the world. It's exactly what's described in the Bible. And it just so happens the weird, unexplainable things about the earth and the sun that are described in that same part of the Bible as well, all of a sudden they start to make sense if you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, they're talking about this. And when they say that about the sun, they're talking about this. I have tattooed on my back right here, Revelation 16:8. It reads, "And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire." Now, I can assure you, there's not going to be any little winged thing that goes up and pours anything on the sun, but the power will be given unto him to scorch men with fire when Earth's magnetic field drops, and we get one of those big blasts of plasma, which is what those charged particles are. It's plasma. It's no different than a flame. It's the same kind of thing. A flame or a lightning bolt, it's all plasma. It's just when the sun does it, it's like a blanket that it's not glowing as it comes at us. You know, it's like a invisible electric blanket that just smacks our planet as hard as it can. That's a good way to think of it, actually.
Unbelievable. I was going to say, have you ever heard there's this thing? So I'm a traditional Catholic, and among traditional Catholic circles, there's been something I've been hearing about for years and years called the 3 days of darkness. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, so remember I said there was the mainstream stuff, and then there's all the stuff I think there's evidence for. We didn't really have time to get into that, but essentially what's doing this to the Earth is doing it to the entire solar system. It is basically a galactic magnetic reversal. Now, the galaxy is not having a magnetic reversal. Our solar system is traveling from the northern fields into the southern fields. Basically, where the north and south fields meet in the galaxy, it's not perfectly at the equator. It's sort of in a rippling Parker instability. It's a physics term. We won't go into it too much, but it actually radiates outward much faster than the stars actually move. And so even though it would take us maybe 10,000 years to actually get through the galactic equator, so to speak, this thing comes and whacks us, you know, because it's spiraling outward, carrying the magnetic reversal point of the galaxy right there where the northern and southern fields meet each other. When we actually get hit by that, and we are at the zero, because at some point we're some power north, but to get to some power south, we have to cross the middle line, which is zero magnetism at all. This is not what our sun likes. Stars do not like this whatsoever. It's going to impact the luminosity and the solar wind outflow to the point where material is going to kind of cool and collect at the top of the atmosphere, kind of the way that if there was a super volcano eruption, if you ever heard of volcanic winter, it would blast all of those particles up, and then they would actually just sit up at the top of the sky there, you know, in different density layers. They would get stuck up there. Same thing can happen on the sun. And the problem is the sun only stays that way for maybe 2 or 3 days. And then we're in the other hemisphere of the galactic magnetic fields. The sun clicks back on, but it's like you've lit a firecracker and then put your hands around it. There's a layer that's going to get blown off in every direction. And that's what the big solar flash, the solar micronova, the people who talk about the solar flash in terms of ascension or 5D this or whatever, I'm not an expert, but this is the event they are speaking of. It is chemically demanded, it is physically demanded, and in those disaster layers that I was talking about earlier, there are also nova level isotopes, meaning these isotopes are so extreme they can only be made in a nova level event on a star. And the problem is some of them have such short half-lives that even if the nearest star were to have done it, it would take far longer to get all the way to our star than the half-life of this actual isotope. And so here's a way to put it. The closest star is about 4 light years away, meaning at the speed of light, it's 4 years back and forth, 4 years one way. Let's say it were to explode and its particles were to get here to Earth and our solar system, that wouldn't be for like 1 million years. There would only be 4 years for the light and then 1 million years for the particles. There's just no way these things could have come from anywhere else but the sun. In addition to the fact that they wouldn't just be concentrated in these layers. They couldn't just arrive in such a short punctuated period. It would be more of a drifting through space kind of thing. And so, yes, the 3 days of darkness is absolutely real. The sun turns. Well, first, what happens is the top of the sky begins to change because Earth's magnetic field is changing. And so the lens through which we view our star changes, and the yellow sun becomes white. So bright, it wears a crown at the top of the sky. You have to look at it and you just basically see the rays going. It looks like the sun's wearing a crown. But then when the magnetic reversal of the galaxy begins to impact the star and it begins to lose luminosity, and dust and other material begin to aggregate and block the light even further, it's going to turn red. And when it turns red, if it hasn't already happened, the planet is going to go berserk. There will be no civility left anywhere. Then it will turn black for about 3 days. And during this time, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Van Allen belts, or you think that your viewers might know what they are.
Yes.
But the Van Allen belts will be visible around the black sun. They'll kind of just look like they're these little wings on either side of the sun there. And here's the thing. If you think about it, what rises first in the morning, that side sets first in the evening. It's not like it's doing cartwheels in the sky. But from our perspective, for what rises first to fall first, our perspective has to flip 180 degrees. You see what I'm saying? That means these wings on the side of the sun, they're going to look like this and like this. It's going to look like the sun has the black sun has scales of justice on either side of it. Then when the micronova occurs, through all of that stuff that the sun has just blasted off, we will once again see that pale yellow hue. But hell follows with it. Now, do you see what I just did? The physics and the chemistry of the way the solar micronova in the magnetic pole shift have to work is, first, the top of the sky changes and we get the first horseman, white, who wears a crown. Then the second horseman, who is red and steals the civility of the people. The third horseman, who is black and carries the scales of justice. And the fourth horseman, which is pale, but brings hell with him. This is the story of how physics and chemistry say the solar micronova is going to play out. And I think that's a heck of a coincidence. Beyond that, the mission they went up for the moon.
Right. Artemis?
Apollo.
Oh.
No, the first one, Apollo. What did Apollo have to do with the moon?
Right. Actually, yeah, I never thought about that.
Apollo's a sun god. They went up there, and if you listen to the audio, all of the audio is about, hey, yes, this is what we're looking for. This is that black glass. This is that glass. That's the micronova having melted the surface of the moon into glass. They went up to the moon to prove it. And to be perfectly honest, when that information started going out, the very next week is when the conspiracy about, no, they never went at all, came out. Dude, I swear, they would rather have people think they didn't go than know the real reason they actually went.
Right.
Here's the other thing. Can you pull up the mission badge from Apollo, the one with the horses.
Yes.
So,
let's see.
As if it's not bad enough that Apollo has nothing to do with the moon. Okay.
What is this? What is that?
So here, can you find the one with the red sun?
The red sun. This one?
Yes, that one right down there. All right. So Apollo has nothing to do with the moon. Here we have the four horses, with the sun being one of the horses.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And is that what the sun looks like, or does it look like the sun has turned red and is blasting off in all directions?
Right.
This has nothing to do with the moon at all. And here's the difference. Everybody's aware about how famous the mission patch is on the astronaut's arm. It's the mission badge that speaks the truth. That's where they tell the truth in plain sight. And this is just one example. You can actually do this with a whole bunch of other NASA and European Space Agency missions. I don't think we should get into that right now. That's a very long discussion. But the point is, for those of you who think, oh, they have to tell us, or they tell us in plain sight, and I know that's at least half of this community, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the ways they do it. And boy, we really kind of went off into the
Yeah, no, it was good. It's good though. But yeah, and we are coming up on an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for joining us. Of course, everybody that is watching, this topic is so deep. I mean, my wife almost murdered me when I first got into this, because I was just binge watching hours of content, which can be found over at Ben's X account. He is at Sun Weatherman over on X, closing in on 250,000 followers there. Over on YouTube, Space Weather News SOs. Man, you're closing in on 100K over there, you're closing in on 1 million. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his website, spaceweathernews.com. And if you are looking for a nice place to take the Airstream
I'm
and
pretty
go on
nice in person. Yeah. I'm pretty nice in person.
You can go to Observer Ranch. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really, it was great to talk about the end of the world in a different way than we're normally here. Normally it's the Samson option. It's, this and that. So this is interesting, and it's science-based, fact-based. So,
well,
thank you very much.
The sad thing is, all those other things, they may be coming too. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Elysium up in the sky before the sun turned red.
Jeez,
I wouldn't
crazy.
be shocked one bit. There's a whole lot of change. If the last 6 years haven't told you how much change can happen that quickly, you might not realize how far away the 2040s are. There's a lot, but the game starts now. The game starts yesterday, because the sun could cook us next week. We don't know. They could start dropping nukes at any time. We don't know. We have no idea what the actual reaction of the global economy is to the digitalization of currencies. We really just don't know. And so the game is afoot. And it doesn't mean screw life. It means keep everything going. Keep your life ascending as best you can. But maybe an hour less drinking, maybe an hour less video games. An hour less of watching basketball or whatever it is you watch, or whatever your favorite show is on Netflix. Just try to save your bloodline, because this is coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Amen. Amen. So thank you so much for joining us. You'll be able to find all of his links in the show notes below. Cheers.
Right on. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Amazing. Isn't it? Amazing. Where's the, let me get the round of applause. Thank you very much for joining us on the show here, Ben. That was fantastic. Are we all black-pilled now? Are we all ready to be nuked by the sun, the micronova? Are we ready to be turned into glass? Would that be... I mean, honestly, that doesn't sound so bad, actually. Like, I'm kind of into it. Man, it's so fun. And this whole thing, while we were watching the interview that I did, it had reminded me of this book that I stole from my dad. Sorry, Dad, got a copy of it. But I remember in the early 2000s reading this book. Do you remember this one? Strategic Relocation, The North American Guide to Safe Places. Like, am I the only person that had this book? Chat, tell me if you've got a copy of this too. But it's always interesting, right? Because this wasn't about like the sun blowing up or anything, but it was just about getting out of unsafe areas. Like here's a map of all of the tornado activity, you know. It's super interesting. I think they've put out an updated version of this. And by the way, North Idaho looks pretty good in here, you know, very low crime, low minority populations, great laws for businesses, unlike the state of Washington. But anyway, yeah, strategic relocation. That reminded me. But I guess, according to Ben, maybe Idaho isn't isn't the best place. Maybe we're gonna get sloshback or something when the Earth's crust detaches from the core because of a solar flare in 2050. God knows what'll happen. Anyway, thank you to everybody for joining us. This is not the end, though. We're just getting started. There's a couple more things that I wanted to talk about, especially with regards to the end of the world. This is like a fascinating topic. I think about it all the time. And there are some incredible things that are happening in the next like 48 hours, actually, that are pretty unprecedented. And I think it has a direct relationship with this end of the world stuff. And that is the Society of St. Pius X is going to be consecrating bishops without papal approval. I might be getting excommunicated because I, am friends with these people. God knows. But it is interesting, and TLM Ryan had a good take on it that I wanted to share with you. But first, we do have to thank all of our wonderful sponsors for making this possible. With the imminent end of the world coming and the total obliteration of everything that we knew, we all know what you're going to need. And what you're going to need is not soundtrack. It's gold and silver, actually. I'm kidding. I think it's funny. But it's true. It's true. You do need gold and silver because regardless of what the sun does, the government is not going to stop printing US dollars. So please go to atlasbullion.com/backlash and get signed up to stack precious metals the easy way, regardless of what happens on the sun, regardless of the solar micronova or the geomagnetic excursion that is currently underway in our solar system. The U.S. government is devaluing and debasing our currency by printing money, by giving Iran billions of dollars, by just how many billions of dollars are we giving to Taiwan, by the way? We shouldn't be doing that either. So you're going to need to be saving to protect your bloodline. Your grandchildren are going to need cash to buy an overpriced house after the boomers are done with this housing market. And the only way to do that is to be saving in something that can't be debased, it can't be faked, it can't be printed out of nothing. And that is, of course, gold and silver with our friends at atlasbullion.com/backlash. If you haven't got signed up, it is a perfect time to start DCAing, that is dollar cost averaging into precious metals. Obviously, this is not financial advice. I eat crayons for breakfast. Do your own research. And all of the above. But let's just take a quick look at the ye old charts over here, because like I said, I do think it is a pretty good time to start dollar cost averaging. And gold is sitting at a 6-month low. Let's see, its peak it hit, according to this chart, 5,300. It is down 24% from the peak. If we look at the year chart, you can see that it had this massive parabolic move. It went up, and now it's been kind of hovering around. I think it could go. Again, I eat crayons for breakfast, but why not? Maybe it could come back around here, the 3,500 area, and then it's going to keep going up because look at the chart over time. It goes up, parabolic move up, it backs off a little bit. From 2010 to 2015, it pulled back like 40%. And so when we zoom in here, let's see it right here, right? It's like 30%. So we could go down a little bit more. It could go down a little bit more, maybe about $3,500 or something like that. But you're never going to perfectly time the market. You're never going to be able to perfectly time the market. The best thing is to pick assets that you like, that you think are actually going to be worth something in 20 or 50 years, which, I don't invest in the SPY or what are all those things? The S&P, I don't do that. NASDAQ, I don't do any of those funds or anything like that. It's way too crazy, especially with SpaceX IPO, Anthropic and Chat GPT are going to be going out for IPOs. I don't trust any of that shit. I'm looking at gold and silver, and I think you should be too. And so, yeah, dollar cost averaging, it will, over a period of time, if you are like buying, let's say, $500 worth of silver a month, over a period of years, you will wind up accumulating more silver at a cheaper price than if you just tried to time the market and lump sum in. Currently, let's take a look at the silver chart. Silver down 50%, basically 48% from its all-time high, which was set back in December, $115 an ounce. If you liked silver at $115 an ounce, let me tell you, you're going to love it. You're going to love it at $58 an ounce. That's for sure. And so I've been seeing some rumors that maybe silver could go down to like $40 an ounce, something like that. But I've started buying again. Full disclosure, I've started buying again. And I would recommend to all my friends that they should too. And of course, you can do that at atlasbullion.com/backlash. And once again, please say a couple prayers for Kenzie and her mother. Kenzie has been dealing with, I think she got bit by a tick. She's been in and out of the hospital. Her mother's been in and out of the hospital. So please pray for them. And let's see, what else? Speaking of imminent unrest, the end of the world, civil falling apart, everything. Of course, our friends at ODGG Supply, that's why they exist. They exist to make sure that you are prepared. Remember, where are my Boy Scouts at? I'm an Eagle Scout, by the way. Any other Eagle Scouts in the chat watching this show? Anyway, ODGG Supply, of course, is the premier dealer of military surplus equipment here in the Pacific Northwest, whether you're going blanky mode or bug out mode. Does that line work, by the way? Does that entice you to buy anything? Maybe I should work on that. Look at this. They've got flashlights. What else do we got going on? I'll hit view all. Ooh, these are new flashlights. Looks like they've also got some body armor for sale. Level 3 rifle rated body armor, a plate carrier. And those are pretty good prices, too. You can get 15% off if you use promo code Backlash14. Look at this. RTS Tactical Rico Special Operations Vest with 3A soft armor in it. $800 on sale right now at ODGG Supply. You've always got to be checking their website, by the way, because they are constantly adding new product. They've also got restocked on their Traders Invader shirt. Only Traders Help Invaders t-shirt is now back in stock, medium, large, extra large. And if you're 2X, don't listen to the show. This is the wrong show. You've got to be lean maxing. No 2Xs. No 2Xs allowed. You got to hit the gym. But yeah. Visit odggsupply.com at your checkout. Use promo code Backlash14. You'll get 14% off your order. Now, speaking of solar flares, total destruction, the end of the world, I do think that this is an interesting topic, not to be black-pilled, if discussing this type of stuff or thinking about this type of stuff, if it freaks you out to the point that like you can't function, then don't engage. Don't engage with it. I think Ben's advice at the end of the interview about, hey, maybe watch a little less sports ball, okay? Maybe spend less time drinking alcohol. That's great. Those are great things to do anyway, regardless of whether the world is going to end or not. So I think that's positive and productive. When engaging in end of the worldism, when it starts to like paralyze you, that's when you got to turn it off. And the best thing possible is to have your 5, 10, 20-year plan, as if things are going to remain relatively status quo. You should have your like emergency plans for civil unrest, what happens if the dollar goes to zero, et cetera, et cetera. You should have your plans, your extreme plans. right? Plan your work your plan, be prepared. That's all good. But not if it becomes like a paralyzing point or if you're like obsessed with it or anything like that. We don't know what the future will hold. God is the author of history, and worrying about these things doesn't change anything. It is actually not useful to worry about the end of the world. So with that being said, though, it is interesting, right? Like I have a statue in my living room above my bookshelf for my precious and rare books. Not that these aren't; these are all banned books, too. But I have a statue of St. Vincent Ferrer. Let me pull him up actually on the screen in case you haven't heard of him. St. Vincent Ferrer was a saint. He was born in 1350 in Spain, died in 1419 in France. And St. Vincent Ferrer was known as the angel of the apocalypse. He preached the end of the world. He thought that in the late 1300s, the early 1400s, that it was in fact the end of the world and that it was imminent and that hellfire would rain on earth at any moment. And actually, it worked pretty well for him. Not only is he a saint, but he brought thousands and thousands of people to the faith, which is so important. But it's interesting. It's interesting that all throughout time, you can find these types of characters that believe that it's the end of the world. Savonarola is another one. He was a Dominican preacher in Florence, I believe. Let me not mess this up. Savonarola. Was he in Florence? Girolamo Savonarola, based, by the way. He's not technically a saint, but he is based. Florence, Italy. I was correct. Actually, and by the way, Savonarola is the guy that created the second half of the Hail Mary, the Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. That was actually written by this guy. And one of the things that there is in common with a lot of this end of the world stuff is a crisis happening in the Vatican. Obviously, during Savonarola's time, we had Pope Alexander VI. He had brothels and, bastard children running around and all kinds of crazy stuff. And people thought that he was the Antichrist. During the time of St. Vincent Ferrer, that was the Avignon crisis, where there were 3 popes. And they were all excommunicating each other, and it was confusing. But here we are now in 2026, 60 years after Vatican II, and we have a crisis in the Catholic Church, which I think is worth noting, And for those of you out there who think that there is no crisis in the Catholic Church, let me just present to you Exhibit A. This is from the National Catholic Reporter, an official news outlet from the Catholic Church. It says, Stonewall Pride Mass draws Catholics for message of faith, inclusion, and hope. Now, do you think that he was preaching abstinence? Do you think that he was telling these people that they cannot engage in sodomite acts, right? No, of course not. That's not what they're saying at all. In Germany, we've got bishops blessing gay marriages. And then we are all told, nope, there's no crisis in the church. Don't worry about it. It ain't happening. And so when you take that and then you couple it with what's been going on over the past 300 years, which is this phenomenon of Marian apparitions. And we're going to have someone on to talk about this soon, I do hope. But the Blessed Virgin Mary has been coming and talking to people and sharing these apocalyptic end of the world scenarios that the papacy is going to fall, that the church is going to lose the faith, that Catholics all over the world will be persecuted, that there will be 3 days of darkness or whatever. And it's just interesting to me. So from the Catholic perspective, you can kind of come to this idea that maybe time is running out. Maybe we are getting close to the end of the world. And then, of course, you've also got this this issue in Israel with the Jews coming back to their homeland. Of course, this isn't the first time that something like that has been attempted. Julian the Apostate, you'll remember, attempted to rebuild the third temple, and the ground caught on fire. There were earthquakes, and everybody died. So I'm not too worried about the Israel stuff. I think God'll handle that. And public opinion, by the way, totally out the window. Public opinion on Israel is totally cratered. There is like zero support for it anymore, even among some boomers, which is incredible. Not all boomers. Most boomers suck, but some. But anyway, the point is that there is this crisis in society. There is a crisis in the church. There is this potential for the end of the world. And there's something incredible happening in like 24 hours that I want you to be aware of. And maybe I'll fire up an extra live stream this week. But the Society of St. Pius X is consecrating these bishops, which will lead to excommunication potentially for the people doing the consecrating and to the people that potentially attend these churches. I know there was an article here I can pull up. This comes from a French outlet called the Christian Tribune Christienne, right? I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's up there. Anyway, Revelation, Rome is thinking about declaring the schismatics and the faithful of the fraternity of St. Pius X. Let me get an actual translator here. Am I close? Rome plans to declare all schismatics faithful of the Society of St. Pius X and possibly beyond. Yeah, I was pretty close. So this is pretty big. Nothing like this has happened in a very, very long time. 1988 was the last time that anything like this happened, as far as consecrating of new bishops and there being a big kerfuffle with the Vatican, a debacle with the Vatican. But anyway, something that I do think is worthwhile is finding out about why this is happening. You know, I know that there's a lot of Catholics that watch this show. There's a lot of non-Catholics. I was out at drinks and somebody was trying to be like, oh, you're basically just a Protestant, aren't you? And I'm like, no, we're not Protestants. And so I just wanted to put it out there that there is this new profession of faith that has been released by the Society of St. Pius X to enlighten souls in the face of modern errors. And in it, they dive deep on everything about the magisterium, about Mary, about what's been going on in the Vatican, the degeneracy, the support for ecumenism and religious liberty and Jews, and all of the whole thing is kind of coming to a head. And I think that this document is really important to read. I'm actually going to pop this in the live chat for anybody that wants to read it. I was considering, because I couldn't find, I was at the sauna today, and I couldn't find a digital or an audio version of it to listen to while I was at the gym. And so I was thinking maybe I'll fire up a stream. But they're going to be doing these consecrations. I think it will happen at about 11 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night. Technically July 1st. There's a big 12-hour time gap between us and France where this is happening. But that's coming down the pike, and it's going to be very interesting to see. You know, I'm just bringing this up from this idea of apocalyptic thinking, the end of the world, the crisis in the church. I view all these things as linked, and especially the way that Ben kind of brought that all together with the 3 days of darkness and, you know, Revelation and all of that. It'll be super interesting, I think. But yeah, what else is there? Hold on, I'm getting text messages. I don't think that any of these text messages have anything to do with the show. Thank you. Yes. So anyway, I'm white-pilled. The world's going to end. I'm excited. I'm white-pilled. I think it's great. I think we're going to be doing just fine here, you know. And this is always a big thing, too, just to put it out there for those of you that care. I know that there's one or two of you out there, and that is, you've got to just focus on your duty of state, right? Like, you're a married guy. You've got kids. You've got a family. Your duty of state, your job is to train up your family in the faith, to educate your children, to work and provide and secure your family. That's what you've got to be doing. Not necessarily worrying about the end of the world. You don't have to be an activist or anything like that. You just got to take care of your duty of state. That's what you've really got to worry about for all of us. And you know, because I think that there's a lot of people that they get lost in the weeds. They freak out and they think that it's all up to them, and it's not. It's not. And you know, I would also encourage you to get to know other people. Get to know other people in your area. Find your tribe. And it's been going great here in North Idaho, actually, especially, like I said, at that Modern Homesteaders Conference. Man, I had so many people came up to me. They recognized me. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not like some sort of celebrity or something. I'm just a dude with a webcam, you know? But it has been great, and things have been growing, and especially like the Catholic land movement up here in North Idaho, taken off like a weed, over 150 members now. And so, you know, if you're talking about all of this type of doomerism, the food supply will collapse, the electric grid will die. Well, you've got to back that up with things on the other side, actual solutions, right? If you just engage in the doomerism without presenting solutions, I think that's kind of a problem. And so, anyway, enough rambling, enough ranting. I've got to give a shout out to our sponsors, Antelope Hill Publishing. You know, they're fighting to keep history alive and equip new generations of dissidents with the information they need to fight the anti-white regime. Their varied catalog includes a newly updated and expanded third edition of Dr. Kevin MacDonald's Culture of Critique. By the way, we did an interview with him. You should go to our Rumble channel. You can watch that interview there, uncensored, unscripted. It's over there. It has been banned on our YouTube channel. I did get a strike for that one. Oops. But I think it is a very good interview, very worth checking out. But yeah, back to the Antelope Hill Publishing. They've got The Culture of Critique. They've got Ricardo Duchesne's magnum opus, Greatness and Ruin, the definitive scholarly examination of European exceptionalism, as well as works by Kerry Bolton, friend of the show, friend of the show, Josh Neal, and Paul Kersey. Antelope Hill recently also brought David Irving's Nuremberg, The Last Battle back into print, and all kinds of other historical works from eras such as Fascist Italy, National Socialist Germany, Civil War Spain, all previously unavailable in English. There are also plenty of books on contemporary issues such as transgenderism, the opioid crisis, and Christian nationalism, as well as history books, novels, and children's books. So whatever your interest is, you're bound to find books that you like at Antelope Hill, all professionally published with sleek, modern cover art. Help us and help our people by checking out companies that share our values and fight for our cause. Visit antelopehillpublishing.com and use promo code BACKLASH10. You'll get 10% off your order. And while we're at it, I do want to mention that we've got a big show lined up for you on Wednesday. Dr. Karlin Borisenko. Don't know if you guys have heard of her or not. Let me pull her up on X. We are going back and forth trying to figure out when we can make this go live. But Karlin Borisenko, she does a great job infiltrating the left, infiltrating Antifa. She posted a picture of herself in like her disguise the other day. Here it is. Yeah. She's like wearing a disguise, going undercover at these anti-fascist events. She was just in Chicago over the weekend. And I think that she's got some serious insights into the left, the radical left. There she is in her getup. And so we're going to be talking with her to try to get some level of understanding. Here we are, far-right extremists, and more we're seeing people like Elon Musk kind of, picking up our talking points and things like that. And that's good and all. But we still have this issue of like leftists that are out there. And we have to understand them, understand what motivates them to be able to combat them effectively, I think. And to be able to secure our communities from leftist disturbance. So Karlin Borisenko will be joining us Wednesday. It will not be at our normal time. So be advised, it will not be at the normal time. But I will let you all know when that is. It'll probably be closer to like 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, somewhere around there. So keep an eye out for that. But it's so important that we aren't acting like crazy boomers that don't live in the real world. It is very important that we aren't living in la la land, like this guy, for example. This is from one of the the Zionists up here in North Idaho. Let me make sure that you can see the whole text. This guy actually ran for Attorney General up here. What a mess. But Art Mackomer said to me, and so this is drama, whatever. Several podcasts ago, I said something to the effect of like, yeah, I support Hamas's right to bear arms. I support everybody's right to bear arms. I believe in the Second Amendment. I think that's an easy one. Like, I think everybody should be allowed to protect and defend their families, their homes, etc. Right? And so the Zionists are, Dave Riley is evil, blah, blah, blah. And so they're going back and forth in their group chat. And then Art Mackomer comes up with this absolute gem of a retard statement who says, oh, it's easy for him to say, just wait until Hamas comes down his street with some AK-47s and grabs his wife. Zero perspective. He just doesn't see the real threats in the world. Really, Art? Bro, I didn't know that Hamas coming down my driveway to kidnap my wife was a real threat that I should take seriously. But anyway, that being said, there are real threats. And one of those things is like, for example, what happened in New York City, where the Democratic Socialists of America swept city council. They are on the rise. They are ascendant. And so it is important that we understand the left, that we understand what makes them tick so that we can effectively combat them and we can effectively fight them. Because if we are operating under a false pretense or a false understanding of what the left actually is, we'll lose. So we don't want that. So Karlin Borisenko will be joining us on Wednesday to educate us all about the left and what it is that they are up to, what they're doing, what they believe, and how we can fight them. So please make sure that you have smashed the follow button if you haven't already. Also, smash the like button on this video if you liked the interview. There's going to be more of it to come. And we've also got to give a shout out to Above Time Coffee Roasters. They are purveyors of fine, hand-roasted, small batch, non-kosher coffee from Pennsylvania. It is delicious. It will put a pep in your step. It will give you meaning and purpose in your life. With each cup that you drink, you will become increasingly more awake to the occupation of our country by AIPAC. No, I'm kidding. But it will make your eyes pop out of your head. It is fantastic stuff. Visit AboveTimeCoffee.com and you can get yourself gassed up on some caffeine from our friends over at Above Time Coffee. And of course, you can find all of the links in the show notes below. And you can find all of our affiliates on our website, patronage network, if you will. So whether it's gold, silver, Bitcoin, books, coffee, or tallow, we've got it all here at the Backlash for you. And by the way, North Idaho Tallow Company, in case you didn't hear at the beginning, they have pledged that they are going to help fight the abortion initiative that is coming to Idaho this November. Use promo code 4LIFE. That is the number 4, LIFE, at your checkout. You'll get 10% off your order from idahotallow.com. And 20% of the profits that they make using that promo code will go to fighting the abortion initiative here in Idaho. So you will get clean with the soap. You will have a clean conscience knowing that you've done something to help keep Idaho, Idaho. It's a win for everybody involved. And we'll have more like I said, on Wednesday. But there is a lot going on this weekend in Coeur d'Alene. If you happen to live in the Pacific Northwest, if you happen to live here in North Idaho, there is going to be a whole host of amazing events going on this Saturday, obviously July 4th, the 250th anniversary of the birth of this nation. And of course, we still need to declare our independence from Israel as a nation. Looks like we're starting to head that direction here in Idaho, which is good. But, you know, I think that it's going to be a good time to take the family out. So July 4th, there will be an agenda. I will post it as soon as I get more information. But every year, State Senator Phil Hart from Legislative District 2, I believe, or 3, I can't remember. He will be reading the Declaration of Independence at Independence Point in Coeur d'Alene. And so that will be great. I think that they dress up in like the wig and the whole thing. So that'll be a fun time. You can come out. I'll be bringing the whole family out. And so that'll be before the parade on July 4th. I think sometime around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning at Independence Point. I'll get you more information on that Wednesday. And then, of course, the Coeur d'Alene 4th of July parade, which if you've never been to, you absolutely, like, yes, if you are not doing anything this weekend, please get on a plane and come to Coeur d'Alene. You will never experience anything in America like 4th of July in North Idaho. It is unbelievable. It's already sounded like a war zone up here for the past week and a half. Everybody is lighting off these illegal fireworks. It's fantastic. And so that's all going to be going on the 4th of July. I'll be around hanging out, having a good time. Want you to come with me, especially if you live in the area. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe we can boo and heckle Dan Gukin, the mayor. Bring some tomatoes. Kidding, that's assault. You'll go to jail. You can't do that. But, you know, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. And, of course, make sure you're following me on X. I will be posting updates there. And, yeah, here I am on X, by the way. If you're not following me somehow, you're doing it wrong. Please follow me at Real Dave Riley. And so that pretty much does it. I think it was a great episode today, you know, the end of the world. It's interesting, you know, and anything that kind of reminds you of your own mortality and the fact that this all will pass. This all will pass away. So what am I doing with the time that I've been given here on this earth? I don't think that that is an unhealthy relationship with the end of the world. But, you know, this is different. The Zionists, they think that they can hasten the end of the world. They think that they can make it happen faster. It's crazy. The Chabad Lubavitch, too, they think the same thing. I'm like, nah, let's just chill. Let's just run our course. If God wants to nuke us tomorrow, that sounds like a great plan. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for me. I may be back with a surprise consecration stream tomorrow as the SSPX takes a bold stand for Catholics all around the world. May do that. No promises, but definitely we'll be back Wednesday with Karlin Borisenko. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us. Let me just read off some of these people. Still Hollow, Willie, O2X in the chat, Iron Crow, Silent Vector, Gunther now, the Winged Hussar, of course, good friend. What's up, buddy? And who else? Still Hollow, Silent Vector, got them. So anyway, Cronin. Thank you all for hopping in the live chat, for adding to the discourse. It was great to see all of you here. We'll be back. God bless. Have a great night. Bye-bye.